A 6-year-old calls 911 and says, "Mommy won't wake up." What investigators discover will break your heart. But what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe for more soul-stirring stories. Enjoy the story. October 15th, Cascade Falls, Oregon. A small town in the Pacific Northwest where autumn mornings arrive cold and gray, and families like the Sullivans do their best to get by on too little. 6-year-old Emma Sullivan woke up that Tuesday morning with butterflies in her stomach. It was show and tell day at school, and she'd been preparing for weeks. She had a collection of smooth river stones she'd gathered with her mother over the summer, each one a different color, each one with a memory attached. But when Emma climbed out of her small bed, clutching hopscotch, her one-eared stuffed rabbit, something was wrong. The apartment was too quiet. Usually by 6:30 in the morning, Emma would hear her mother in the kitchen. The familiar sounds of breakfast being prepared, the clinking of bowls, the hiss of the kettle. Her mother's soft humming even on the hard days. Today there was only silence. Emma padded down the narrow hallway of their 2-bedroom apartment, her bare feet cold against the worn linoleum floor. She was still in her pink pajamas, her blonde hair tangled from sleep. "Mommy?" she called softly. No answer. The bathroom door was open, light spilling into the dim hallway. Emma pushed it wider and looked inside. What she saw would change everything. Her mother, Kate Sullivan, 28 years old but looking older, worn down by years of struggle, was lying on the bathroom floor. Her body was twisted at an awkward angle, one arm stretched out as if reaching for something. Her eyes were closed. Her face was pale, almost gray. Near her hand was an empty syringe. Several prescription bottles lay scattered on the tile, their labels torn and unreadable. "Mommy?" Emma's voice was barely a whisper now. She knelt beside her mother, placing one small hand on her shoulder. The shoulder felt cold. Emma shook it gently. "Mommy, wake up. We have to get ready for school." Nothing. Kate didn't move, didn't respond. Emma's heart began to pound. This wasn't like the bad days Mommy sometimes had. On bad days, Mommy would stay in bed, and Emma knew to be extra quiet, to bring water, to let her rest. On really bad days, Emma would call Miss Eleanor. But this was different. This was worse. Emma stood up, her mind racing through the rules Mommy had taught her. She ran to the kitchen where a laminated card was stuck to the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. The card had big, clear writing. Emergency rules. If Mommy is tired but can talk, help Mommy to bed, bring water. If Mommy can't get up but is awake, call Miss Eleanor, 500-41, 55147. If Mommy won't wake up, call 911 first. Emma's hands trembled as she read the last line. Mommy won't wake up. That meant 911. She dragged a chair to the counter and climbed up to reach the cordless phone. Her fingers fumbled as she pressed the numbers. 911. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Each ring felt like forever. Then a voice, calm and professional. 911? What's your emergency? Emma took a deep breath, trying to remember everything Mommy had taught her. "My mommy won't wake up," she said, her voice surprisingly steady despite the terror coursing through her. "She's on the bathroom floor." "Okay, sweetheart, you're doing great. Can you tell me your name?" "Emma Sullivan. I'm 6 3/4 years old." "That's very good, Emma. What's your address?" Emma recited it carefully, just like she'd practiced. "Apartment 2B, 847 Riverside Lane, Cascade Falls." "Perfect, Emma. Help is already on the way. Can you tell me if your mommy is breathing?" Emma hadn't thought to check. She climbed down from the chair, still holding the phone, and ran back to the bathroom. She leaned close to her mother's face, watching. She could see the slight rise and fall of her mother's chest. She could feel the whisper of breath against her cheek. "Yes," Emma said, relief washing over her. "She's breathing, But she won't wake up. I shook her and called her name, but she doesn't answer. That's good, Emma. You're being so brave. Is anyone else there with you? No, just me and Mommy, and Hopscotch. He's my rabbit. Okay, the paramedics are almost there. They'll be knocking on your door very soon. Do you know how to unlock the door? Yes, Mommy taught me. Good girl. I'm going to stay on the phone with you until they arrive, okay? Emma sat down on the cold bathroom floor next to her mother. She set the phone beside her for a moment and reached out to take her mother's hand. It felt cold, and Emma could feel the familiar tremor. Even now, even unconscious, her mother's hand still shook slightly. Emma picked up the phone again. There's medicine bottles on the floor, she said quietly, and a needle. Mommy takes special medicine because she has MS. That's, multiple sclerosis. It makes her body fight itself. There was a brief pause on the other end. Okay, Emma. That's very helpful information. The paramedics will be there any second. Emma heard sirens in the distance, growing louder and louder. Then she remembered Miss Eleanor. She should call Miss Eleanor too. Can I call someone else? Emma asked. My mommy's friend? She's supposed to know if Mommy is sick? Yes, sweetheart. But the paramedics are right outside now. Can you hear them? Emma could. The sirens were right outside their building. Heavy footsteps thundered up the stairs. Fire department paramedics. Anyone home? I have to go let them in, Emma told the dispatcher. Okay, honey, you did so good. You saved your mommy. Emma hung up and ran to the front door. She had to stand on her tiptoes to reach the deadbolt. She turned it, then twisted the doorknob with both hands. The door swung open. 2 paramedics in uniform stood there, a man and a woman, both carrying large bags of equipment. They looked big and official and slightly scary, but their faces were kind. Hi there, the man said, kneeling down to Emma's eye level. He had warm brown eyes and a gentle voice. I'm Jason, and this is Rebecca. We're here to help your mom. Can you show us where she is? Emma nodded silently and led them to the bathroom. Hopscotch clutched tightly against her chest. Jason Mitchell had been a paramedic for 12 years. He'd seen overdoses, accidents, medical emergencies of every kind. He'd learned to stay calm, to assess quickly, to never assume. But when he stepped into that bathroom and saw Kate Sullivan on the floor, a syringe nearby, medication bottles scattered, and a 6-year-old standing there calmly waiting, something about the scene didn't add up. This wasn't the chaos of addiction. This was something else. Rebecca knelt beside Kate, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. Female, late 20s, unresponsive, pulse is weak, 52 beats per minute, respirations shallow at 10 per minute. She's hypothermic. Body temp feels low. Jason picked up one of the medication bottles, trying to read the damaged label. He could make out partial words. Immuno and suppress. He turned to Emma. Honey, you said your mommy has MS. Emma nodded. Multiple sclerosis. It's a disease where her body's immune system attacks her nerves. That's why her hands shake, and she gets really tired, and sometimes her legs don't work right. The clinical knowledge this 6-year-old possessed was startling. Do you know what medicine your mommy takes? Emma bit her lip. She wasn't supposed to tell people about Mommy's medicine. Mommy had said if people knew she was sick, they might think she couldn't take care of Emma properly. But Mommy was on the floor, and these people were supposed to help. The shot in the refrigerator, Emma said quietly. She does it herself in her leg. It's supposed to help with the MS, and she has pills, blue and white ones in the morning, pink ones at night. How often does she do the shot? Emma's voice got even smaller. She's supposed to do it every week, but sometimes we don't have enough money for all of it, so she makes it last longer. Jason and Rebecca exchanged glances over Kate's unconscious body. Sweetheart, who takes care of you when Mommy isn't feeling well? Jason asked gently. I take care of myself mostly, Emma said, standing up straighter. I'm a big girl. I can make cereal and sandwiches, and Miss Eleanor helps sometimes. She lives at the big house on Maple Street. Mommy works for her." As Rebecca prepared Kate for transport, Jason radioed ahead to Memorial Hospital. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. We have a female patient, approximately late 20s, found unconscious by her 6-year-old daughter. Evidence of injectable medications present. Child reports mother has chronic condition, multiple sclerosis. Patient appears to be in some kind of medical crisis, not overdose. Vitals, pulse 52, respirations 10, hypothermic. Child was alone at scene, requesting CPS notification per protocol." That last part, CPS notification, was automatic. A child alone with an incapacitated parent required a call to Child Protective Services. It was the law. But Jason felt uneasy about it as he looked at Emma's serious little face. "Can I come with Mommy?" Emma asked, her voice small and afraid. Jason looked at Rebecca, who nodded. "Yes, sweetheart. Grab some shoes and a jacket if you can." Emma ran to her room and came back wearing mismatched sneakers and a thin jacket that was clearly too small for her. She clutched Hopscotch tightly. As they loaded Kate onto the stretcher and wheeled her toward the ambulance, Emma suddenly stopped. "Wait. I need to call Miss Eleanor. Mommy's rules say I have to." "We'll call her from the hospital," Rebecca said gently. "No, I promised Mommy. If something happens, I call Miss Eleanor. It's important." Something about the urgency in Emma's voice made Jason pause. "Okay. Do you know the number?" Emma recited it from memory. Jason pulled out his phone and dialed, putting it on speaker. It rang 4 times, then, "Hello?" "Mrs. Whitmore, this is paramedic Jason Mitchell with Cascade Falls Fire Department. I'm here with Emma Sullivan. There's been an emergency with her mother." "Emma! Oh my God! Is she all right? Where's Kate?" Emma took the phone, her small voice suddenly breaking. "Miss Eleanor, Mommy won't wake up. They're taking her to the hospital. I called 911 like she taught me, but I'm really scared." "Oh, sweetheart." Eleanor's voice was thick with emotion. "You were so brave. I'm coming to the hospital right now. You're not alone, Emma. Do you hear me? You're not alone." "Okay," Emma whispered. "Hurry." "I will, baby. I promise. Let me talk to the paramedic." Jason took the phone back. Eleanor spoke quickly. "I'm Eleanor Whitmore. Kate works for me as a home care aide. She has MS, multiple sclerosis. She was diagnosed 4 years ago. Please tell the hospital that. This isn't drugs or anything like that. She has a medical condition, and she probably hasn't been able to afford her treatments." "Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. That's helpful information. We're taking her to Memorial Hospital." "I'll be there in 10 minutes. Jason hung up and looked at Emma. "Your Miss Eleanor is on her way. She'll meet us at the hospital. Ready to go?" Emma nodded and climbed into the ambulance. She sat on the bench seat, legs swinging above the floor, watching as Rebecca attached monitors and IV lines to her mother. The equipment beeped steadily. The siren wailed. The ambulance raced through the quiet morning streets. Emma scooted closer to her mother and carefully took her hand, the one without the IV, and held it, feeling the tremor that never quite stopped. "It's okay, Mommy," Emma whispered. "I'm here. You're not alone. We're going to get help. Real help this time. I called Miss Eleanor and she's coming. Everything's going to be okay." The words were as much to reassure herself as her mother. At Memorial Hospital, Dr. Rachel Morrison was beginning her shift in the pediatric unit. At 42 years old, Rachel had been a pediatrician for 20 years. She was known for her sharp diagnostic skills, her no-nonsense approach, and her absolute commitment to her young patients. What most people didn't know was that Rachel carried a wound that had never quite healed. 25 years ago, her younger sister had died, a casualty of a broken foster care system. Rachel had spent her entire career trying to make sure other children didn't suffer the same fate. She was reviewing patient charts when the call came through about an incoming ambulance. Pediatric consult requested, 6-year-old female, found alone with unconscious parent, no injuries to child but CPS will need interview. Rachel set down her coffee and headed to the ER entrance. She arrived just as the ambulance pulled up. The first thing she saw was the mother, young, pale, unconscious on the stretcher. Then the paramedics moving efficiently. And then, climbing carefully out of the ambulance, a little girl in pink pajamas, mismatched sneakers, and a too-small jacket, clutching a one-eared stuffed rabbit. The child's face was composed. Her eyes were wide but dry. Despite obvious fear, she held herself together with remarkable control. "I need to stay with Mommy," the little girl said firmly to the paramedics. "She gets scared in hospitals. I have to hold her hand." Rachel approached slowly. "Hi there, I'm Dr. Morrison. What's your name?" "Emma Sullivan. That's my mommy, Kate. She's sick, but not the bad kind of sick that some people might think. She has multiple sclerosis. It's an autoimmune disease." Rachel's eyebrows rose slightly. The medical terminology from such a young child was unexpected. "That's a very good explanation, Emma. I'm a doctor who takes care of kids. While other doctors help your mommy, I'm going to make sure you're okay too. Is that all right?" Emma studied Rachel's face for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether to trust her. Finally, she nodded. "I'm fine. I'm not hurt. But Mommy needs help. She hasn't had her treatment in a really long time because it costs too much money." Before Rachel could respond, the ER doors flew open again. An elderly woman rushed in, silver hair slightly disheveled, wearing mismatched earrings in her haste. "Emma? Miss Eleanor?" Emma's composure finally cracked. She ran to the woman who caught her in a tight embrace. "Oh, sweetheart, you're all right. You're so brave." Eleanor held Emma close, then looked at Rachel. "I'm Eleanor Whitmore. Kate works for me. Where is she? Is she going to be okay?" "They're taking her to the ER now. Are you family?" Eleanor hesitated. "Not officially, but Kate has no family in the area. I'm the closest thing she has. And Emma," her voice caught, "Emma is like a granddaughter to me." Rachel made a quick decision. "Come with me. Emma, let's find a quiet place where you can sit down and maybe have some juice while the doctors help your mommy. Miss Eleanor can stay with you." She led them to a small consultation room, got Emma a juice box and some crackers, and sat down across from her. "Emma, I need to ask you some questions. Is that okay?" Emma nodded, sipping her juice. "Can you tell me what happened this morning?" For the next 20 minutes, Dr. Rachel Morrison listened as 6-year-old Emma Sullivan calmly explained how she'd found her mother unconscious, how she'd called 911, how she'd known exactly what to do because Mommy made a plan with me in case this ever happened. Rachel made notes, but more than the facts, she was noting Emma's demeanor. This child was too calm, too mature, too knowledgeable about adult problems. These were signs of a child who'd been forced to grow up too fast. But were they signs of neglect? Or signs of a mother doing her absolute best under impossible circumstances? "Emma," Rachel said gently, "you said your mommy has been sick for a long time. What's that like? Living with a mommy who has MS?" Emma thought carefully before answering. "Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes Mommy's legs don't work right and she falls down. Sometimes her eyes get blurry and she can't see good. Sometimes she's so tired she can't get out of bed all day." "And what do you do on those days?" "I'm quiet. I bring her water and her medicine. I make myself lunch, usually peanut butter sandwiches because I'm really good at those. I watch TV with the volume low. And I tell her about my day at school to make her smile." Rachel's heart constricted. That's a lot of responsibility for a 6-year-old. 6 3/4, Emma corrected. "My birthday was in July. Mommy made me a big party with all my friends. It was the best day ever." "That sounds wonderful. Emma, does your mommy ever hurt you or yell at you?" Emma's eyes widened with genuine shock. "No, Mommy never hurts me. She doesn't even raise her voice. Even when I accidentally spilled juice all over her work papers, she just said, 'Accidents happen,' and we cleaned it up together." "Does your mommy love you?" "Yes," no hesitation. "She tells me every single day, sometimes 100 times a day." "How do you know she loves you?" Emma's face softened. "Because even on bad days when she's really sick, she still reads to me at bedtime. She does funny voices for all the characters, even though it makes her tired. She helps me with my homework even when her hands shake so much she can barely hold the pencil. She makes me breakfast even when she can barely stand up. And she always tucks me in and tells me I'm smart and brave and can be anything I want when I grow up. Tears were forming in Emma's eyes now. Is Mommy in trouble? Are you going to take me away from her? Before Rachel could answer, there was a knock on the door. Detective Laura Pierce entered, mid-30s, dark hair in a practical ponytail, sharp eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Morrison, I'm Detective Pierce. I need to interview Emma Sullivan about this morning's incident. Rachel stood. She's 6 years old and she just went through a traumatic experience. I understand. I'll be gentle, but I need to get her statement while everything is still fresh. Eleanor spoke up from her chair beside Emma. Does Emma need a lawyer? Should I call someone? She's not under investigation, Mrs. Whitmore, Laura said. I just need to understand what happened. Emma, is it okay if I ask you some questions? Emma looked at Eleanor, who nodded encouragingly. Okay, Emma said in a small voice. Laura sat down and pulled out a small notebook. But instead of launching into questions immediately, she smiled. That's a nice rabbit you have. What's his name? Hopscotch. He's missing an ear because our washing machine ate it when I was 4. That must have been a very hungry washing machine. Despite everything, Emma giggled slightly. That's what Mommy said too? Laura's expression softened. This child had been through enough. She kept her questions simple and direct. Emma, this morning when you woke up, what did you do? I got out of bed because it was time for school, but the apartment was too quiet. Mommy always makes breakfast by 6:30, so I went to find her. And where was she? On the bathroom floor. She was lying really still, and her eyes were closed, and there were medicine bottles around her. Emma's voice wavered. I tried to wake her up, but she wouldn't. So I looked at our emergency card on the fridge, and it said, if Mommy won't wake up, call 911. So I did. You did exactly the right thing. Have you had to call 911 before? No. But I called Miss Eleanor twice before when Mommy had really bad days. What happens on bad days? Mommy can't get out of bed. Her whole body hurts. Sometimes she cries because she feels bad that she can't take care of me. But I tell her it's okay. I can take care of myself. Laura made notes. Emma, does your mommy work? Yes. She takes care of Miss Eleanor. She helps clean Miss Eleanor's house and makes her lunch and does her laundry. It's really hard work. Sometimes Mommy comes home and she's so tired she goes right to bed. And who takes care of you while your mommy is working? Sometimes Miss Eleanor. Sometimes I'm home by myself for a little while, but I know all the safety rules. Don't open the door for strangers. Don't touch the stove. Don't go outside without telling someone. I'm very responsible. The pride in Emma's voice was heartbreaking. I'm sure you are, Laura said gently. One more question. Do you feel safe at home with your mommy? Emma looked confused. Safe from what? Just in general. Do you feel taken care of? Yes. Mommy loves me more than anything in the whole world. She tells me that all the time. And I love her too. She's the bravest person I know. Laura closed her notebook. Thank you, Emma. You've been very helpful. She stood and gestured for Rachel to step outside. Eleanor stayed with Emma, holding her hand. In the hallway, Laura spoke quietly. What's your assessment? Physically, Emma is fine. No signs of abuse or malnutrition. She's slightly underweight, but not dangerously so. Emotionally, she's far too mature for her age. She's clearly been taking on adult responsibilities. Is that neglect? Rachel hesitated. I think it's complicated. I think it's a mother doing everything she possibly can under impossible circumstances and falling short through no fault of her own. The law doesn't distinguish between can't and won't when it comes to child safety. Maybe it should. Before Laura could respond, another officer appeared. Detective Pierce, officers finished processing the apartment. You need to see something. He handed her a worn journal. Found this on the mother's nightstand. While Emma was being interviewed, Kate Sullivan's apartment was being documented by police. What they found told a different story than the initial call suggested. The apartment was small, just 800 square feet, but clean and organized. Not the home of someone who'd given up, but the home of someone barely holding on. In the kitchen, the refrigerator contained basic groceries. On the counter, a pill organizer carefully filled for the week. A calendar on the wall showed Kate's work shifts marked in blue ink, Emma's school events marked in pink, show and tell Tuesday, parent-teacher conf Thursday, field trip Oct 23. Every appointment noted despite everything. In Emma's bedroom, the walls were covered with drawings, colorful pictures of houses and families and animals. One drawing showed a woman and child holding hands. The woman's hands were drawn with shaky, wavy lines. Beneath it, in careful child's handwriting, "My mommy never gives up." In Kate's bedroom, prescription bottles lined the nightstand. An officer photographed each one, noting the dates. Several were refilled far later than prescribed, as if someone was stretching medications beyond their intended time frame. And then there was the journal. Officer Chen had opened it, knowing it was an invasion of privacy but necessary for the investigation. The entries were sporadic, written on days when Kate had enough energy and clarity. He read several entries, his expression growing more troubled with each one. Finally, he called Detective Pierce and told her she needed to see this. Back at the hospital, in a private office, Detective Laura Pierce opened Kate Sullivan's journal and began to read. Dr. Rachel Morrison read over her shoulder. Eleanor Whitmore stood nearby, knowing what they would find. The first entry was dated 6 months ago. Emma asked me today why my hands shake when I try to braid her hair. I told her Mommy's hands get excited when they touch her beautiful hair. She smiled and hugged me. I cried in the bathroom after. She's 6 years old, and she's learning to lie to protect me. What am I doing to her? Laura turned the page. Couldn't afford my Ocrevus infusion this month. Had to choose between medication and Emma's after-school art program. Chose the program. She needs interaction with other kids. Needs to be creative. Needs to be a normal kid. I can push through the pain. I've done it before. Another page. Third Medicaid application denied. They say I make too much money. I make $1,800 a month. My medication, Ocrevus, costs about $70,000 a year, more than 3 times my income. Someone explained that math to me. Emma asked why I was crying. I told her I was watching a sad movie. She's 6. She shouldn't have to know the system is designed to let people like us fall through the cracks. Rachel's hands clenched into fists. Emma saved her allowance for 2 months, quarters from helping Eleanor water her flowers, and tried to give it to me for medicine money. $23.45. She's 6 years old, and she's trying to fund my MS treatment with quarters from a piggy bank. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried for an hour. She sat outside the door and sang songs through the crack to make me feel better. Laura's voice was thick when she read the next entry aloud. Lost another job today, 3rd one in 18 months. They said I was unreliable. I showed up every single day I could physically stand. Some days I could barely walk, but I went anyway. It's never enough. The system isn't built for people like me, too sick to work full-time, not sick enough for disability, too proud to ask for help, too afraid of losing Emma to admit I'm drowning. Eleanor wiped tears from her eyes. I tried to help her. For 2 years I tried. She refused every time. The last entry was dated 3 days before Kate's collapse. Can't afford this month's Ocrevus infusion. Tried to push through without it. Vision blurring. Legs giving out. Stumbled 3 times today. Emma had to help me up. She's 42 pounds, and she tried to catch me when I fell. She's so small. She shouldn't have to be this strong. Emma deserves better than a mother who's falling apart. Maybe she'd be better off in foster care. At least then she'd have stability, regular meals, a parent who isn't sick all the time. Maybe CPS taking her would be the kindest thing I could do. The room was silent when Laura finished reading. Finally, Rachel spoke, her voice shaking with anger. This isn't neglect. This is a mother being systematically failed by every institution that's supposed to help her. Laura closed the journal carefully. Legally, a 6-year-old was found alone with an incapacitated parent. That requires CPS involvement. And what do you think CPS should do? Rachel challenged. I think... Laura paused, choosing her words carefully. I think this is one of those cases where the law and justice aren't the same thing, but it's not my call. Grace Hendricks from CPS is on her way. In the ER, doctors were working to stabilize Kate Sullivan. Dr. Benjamin Hayes, the attending physician, reviewed her blood work results with growing concern. It's not an overdose, he told his team. Toxicology is negative for narcotics, but she's severely dehydrated, hypothermic, and her inflammatory markers are through the roof. Get me an MRI, brain and spine. And someone call Dr. Karen Friedman from neurology. If this is an MS flare, we need a specialist. A nurse handed him a letter found in Kate's wallet. Dr. Hayes read it, his expression darkening. It was from a neurologist, dated 4 years ago, confirming Kate's MS diagnosis and prescribing Ocrevus infusions every 6 months. When was her last Ocrevus infusion? Hayes asked. The nurse checked Kate's medical records. 14 months ago. She missed 2 cycles. Why would she... Hayes stopped, looking at the expired Medicaid card in Kate's wallet, at the $23 in cash, at the overdue rent notice from her apartment. Because she couldn't afford it. He turned to his team. This patient doesn't need emergency intervention for an overdose. She needs emergency intervention for untreated MS. Get Dr. Friedman down here, stat, and start her on IV methylprednisolone, 1,000 milligrams. We need to stop this flare before it causes permanent damage. 30 minutes later, Grace Hendricks arrived at Memorial Hospital. She was 50 years old with gray-streaked hair and the weary eyes of someone who'd seen too much. 25 years with Child Protective Services had taught her that good intentions weren't enough. Children needed safety, stability, and sometimes that meant making hard decisions. She found Dr. Morrison and Detective Pierce in a consultation room, Kate's journal on the table between them. "Fill me in," Grace said, sitting down. They explained everything: Emma's 911 call, Kate's MS diagnosis, the financial struggles, the journal entries. Grace listened without interrupting, her expression unreadable. When they finished, she said, "Where's the child now?" "With Eleanor Whitmore in the family waiting area." "I need to interview her." "You already have 2 statements," Rachel protested. "She's been through enough today." "I have statements about what happened this morning. I need to assess her overall welfare, her living conditions, her relationship with her mother." Grace's tone was firm, but not unkind. "That's my job, Dr. Morrison." "Your job is to protect children." "Exactly. And right now, I need to determine if Emma is safe or if she needs to be removed from her mother's care." "Removed?" Rachel stood. "Did you read that journal?" "Kate loves her daughter more than anything." "Love isn't always enough," Grace interrupted. Kate collapsed. Emma was alone. This could have ended very differently. What happens the next time Kate has a relapse? What happens when she's hospitalized for days or weeks? Who takes care of Emma then? "We can figure that out." "No, Dr. Morrison, you can't figure that out. That's my job, and I need to do it." Grace picked up the journal and stood. "Take me to Emma, please." In the family waiting area, Emma sat between Eleanor and Hopscotch, drawing with crayons a nurse had given her. She looked up when Grace approached, and immediately her body tensed. "Hi, Emma. I'm Ms. Hendricks. I work with families to make sure everyone is safe and taken care of." "Are you going to take me away from Mommy?" The blunt question caught Grace off guard. "I'm here to talk with you and understand your situation. Can we do that?" Emma looked at Eleanor, who squeezed her hand encouragingly. "Okay," Emma said quietly. Grace sat down and noticed the drawing Emma had been working on. It showed a woman with long hair and a little girl holding hands, surrounded by flowers and sunshine. But what caught Grace's attention was the detail in the woman's hands. They were drawn with jagged, wavy lines, clearly showing tremors. "That's a beautiful drawing," is that you and your mommy?" Emma nodded. "Can you tell me about it?" "That's us at the park. We went there this summer and had a picnic. Mommy's hands were shaking that day, but we still had fun. We fed the ducks, and I found 3 really pretty rocks for my collection." Grace pulled out her notebook. "Emma, I need to ask you some questions about your home, okay?" "Okay." "Do you have your own bedroom?" "Yes, it's small, but Mommy painted it pink for me. She said I could pick any color, and I picked pink because it's my favorite." "Do you always have enough food to eat?" Emma hesitated. "Mostly. Sometimes at the end of the month, we eat a lot of peanut butter sandwiches. Mommy says peanut butter is economical. That's a fancy word for cheap." Grace made a note. "When your mommy is too sick to take care of you, what happens?" "I take care of myself, and Miss Eleanor helps sometimes." "How often are you alone?" "Not very much. Miss Eleanor checks on me every day, and I'm really good at being by myself. I know how to be safe." "Emma, has your mommy ever hit you or hurt you?" "No." Emma's voice was sharp. "Mommy would never hurt me. She doesn't even let me use sharp scissors by myself because she's worried I'll get cut." "Does your mommy love you?" "Yes, more than anything in the whole world. She tells me that every single day, sometimes 1,000,000 times." Grace softened slightly. "How do you know she loves you?" Emma's face lit up despite her worry. "Because she does things even when they're really hard for her. Like one time she had to come to my school play and her legs were really bad that day. Miss Eleanor said she could stay home and I would understand. But Mommy came anyway. She had to use a cane, and Miss Eleanor had to help her, but she came. And she sat in the front row and clapped so loud when I was the butterfly." Emma's voice grew quieter. "And every single night, even when she's so tired she can barely keep her eyes open, she reads to me. She does all the funny voices. Sometimes her hands shake so much she drops the book, but we just laugh and start over." "That sounds like a very good mommy." "She is a good mommy, the best mommy." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Please don't take me away from her. I know she got sick and fell down, but it's not her fault. She tries so hard. She works and works even when her body hurts. She never gives up. If you take me away, it will break her heart. And mine too." Grace set down her pen. 25 years in this job and cases like this still got to her. "Emma, I'm not trying to break anyone's heart. I'm trying to make sure you're safe." "I am safe. With Mommy. She taught me everything, how to call 911, how to be careful, how to be brave. She's sick, but she's still my mommy, and I need her, and she needs me." Eleanor spoke up. "Ms. Hendricks, may I say something?" Grace nodded. "I've known Kate and Emma for 3 years. I see them almost every day. Kate works for me. She's my home care aide. She's the most dedicated, hard-working person I've ever met. She shows up when she can barely walk. She never complains. She's gentle and kind and patient with me." Eleanor's voice strengthened. "And Emma, this child is loved, deeply loved. Yes, Kate has MS. Yes, she struggles financially. Yes, Emma has had to be more independent than most children her age. But Emma is not neglected. She's thriving. She's smart and articulate and emotionally healthy. She's that way because Kate has been an extraordinary mother under impossible circumstances." "Mrs. Whitmore, I appreciate your perspective. But the fact remains, Kate collapsed. Emma was alone. What happens the next time?" "Then we make sure there is a next time plan," Eleanor said firmly. "Kate has been too proud to accept help, too afraid that asking for help would be seen as weakness. But circumstances have changed. She doesn't have a choice anymore, and I'm not going to stand by and watch this family be destroyed when there are solutions." Grace looked between Eleanor and Emma, then at the drawing again. A mother and daughter hand in hand, the mother's hands shaking but holding on tight. "I'll make my recommendation after I see the mother," Grace said finally. 2 hours after arriving at the hospital, Kate Sullivan finally regained consciousness. The first thing she felt was the beeping of monitors, then the IV in her arm, then the oxygen in her nose, and then, like a wave crashing over her, the memory. She'd been in the bathroom trying to reach her morning medications, dizzy, vision blurring, legs giving out, and then nothing. Emma. Where was Emma? Kate's eyes flew open, and she tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't cooperate. A nurse was immediately at her side. "Miss Sullivan, please stay still. You're in the hospital. You're safe." "Emma," Kate's voice was barely a whisper. "My daughter. Where is she?" "She's here at the hospital. She's fine. She's the one who called 911. Very brave little girl." Kate's eyes filled with tears. Emma had found her. Emma had been terrified. Emma had been alone. And now everyone knew. "I need to see her," Kate said, trying to sit up again. "Please, I need to see my daughter. Soon. But first there are some people who need to speak with you. A doctor and someone from CPS," Kate finished, her voice hollow. "Child Protective Services. They're going to take her away from me." The nurse didn't confirm or deny. "Let me get the doctor." Dr. Benjamin Hayes entered a few minutes later, followed by Dr. Karen Friedman, the neurologist who specialized in autoimmune diseases. "Ms. Sullivan, I'm Dr. Hayes. This is Dr. Friedman. How are you feeling?" "Where's my daughter?" Kate asked again, more forcefully despite her weakness. "She's safe. She's with a woman named Eleanor Whitmore and one of our pediatricians." "Eleanor's here?" "She came as soon as Emma called her. Ms. Sullivan, we need to talk about what happened this morning." Kate closed her eyes. "I had an MS flare. I've been having symptoms for weeks, but I thought I could manage. This morning I got dizzy and my legs gave out. I don't remember anything after falling." Dr. Friedman pulled up Kate's MRI images on a tablet. "Ms. Sullivan, may I call you Kate?" Kate nodded. "Kate, your MRI shows active MS lesions throughout your brain and spinal cord. Your last documented Ocrevus infusion was 14 months ago. Why did you stop treatment?" "I didn't stop. I couldn't afford it." "Your medical records show you had Medicaid coverage." "It expired. I reapplied 3 times. I kept getting denied for paperwork errors or because they said I made too much money. Do you know how insane that is? I make $1,800 a month. Each Ocrevus infusion costs around $35,000, 2 per year, about $70,000 annually. Even with insurance, the copay would be over $2,000. I don't have $2,000. Some months, I don't have $200 after rent and food." Kate's voice broke. "So I stretched my oral medications. I bought them from people who couldn't afford theirs either. I skipped doses. I told myself I could manage until I got insurance figured out, but I couldn't. And now Emma—" She couldn't finish. Dr. Hayes spoke gently. "Kate, we've started you on high-dose steroids to treat the acute flare. With proper treatment going forward, your MS can be managed, but you need consistent care. You need the disease-modifying therapy. I need insurance I can't get and money I don't have," Kate said bitterly. "I've tried everything, every program, every application, every option. I fall through every crack in the system. I'm too sick to work full-time, but not sick enough for disability. I make too much for assistance, but too little to actually survive. Tell me how I'm supposed to fix that." The doctors had no answer. There was a knock on the door. Grace Hendricks entered, followed by Dr. Morrison. Kate's face went white. "Please," she said immediately, "please don't take Emma. Please, I know I collapsed. I know she was alone. I know it looks bad. But I love her. I've been trying so hard. I've been working myself to death trying to keep us together. Please don't punish her because I'm sick. Please." Grace sat down in the chair beside Kate's bed. "Ms. Sullivan, I've reviewed the police report, read your journal, interviewed your daughter, and spoken with Mrs. Whitmore. I need to hear your side." Kate took a shaky breath. "What do you want to know? Why didn't you ask for help sooner?" "Because I was terrified. I'd already lost 3 jobs because of my MS. I'd been denied disability 3 times. I'd been denied Medicaid. Every time I admitted I was struggling, doors slammed in my face. I thought if I asked for help, if anyone knew how bad things really were, you'd say I was unfit. You'd take Emma. She's all I have. I couldn't risk it." "So you hid your illness?" "I managed it as best I could. Eleanor knew. She recognized the symptoms because her husband had MS. But I wouldn't let her help financially. I was so afraid it would look like I couldn't provide for Emma, like I was dependent, like I was taking advantage. Kate's hands trembled as she gripped the hospital sheets. I worked every shift I could get. I showed up even when I could barely walk. I made sure Emma had everything she needed: food, clothes, school supplies, activities. I helped with her homework every night. I read to her before bed. I went to every school event. I never missed a parent-teacher conference. Her voice grew stronger. Yes, sometimes Emma had to be more independent than other kids. Yes, sometimes we ate a lot of peanut butter because that's what we could afford. Yes, sometimes she saw me on my worst days. But I loved her. I love her. And I've been teaching her resilience and compassion and how to handle hard things, because that's what life is sometimes. Hard things. And you handle them. You don't give up. You nearly died, Ms. Sullivan. I know. And I scared my daughter. And I hate myself for that. But I was out of options. I'd tried everything else. Grace was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Your journal entry from 3 days ago said Emma might be better off in foster care." Kate flinched. I was having a really bad day. I was in pain and exhausted and feeling like a failure. But I didn't mean it. I would never give her up voluntarily. Never. What if I told you that by refusing help, by trying to do everything alone, you were putting Emma at risk? I know that now, Kate whispered. I know I should have asked for help sooner. I should have swallowed my pride. I should have... She stopped, overcome. Rachel Morrison, who had been standing silently near the door, finally spoke. "Ms. Hendricks, may I say something?" Grace nodded. "I've been a pediatrician for 20 years. I've seen actual neglect. I've seen abuse. I've seen parents who don't care. This is not that." Rachel's voice was passionate. "This is a mother who has been systematically failed by every institution that should have helped her. Healthcare, insurance, disability, social services, every single system failed Kate. And now we're going to compound that failure by taking away the one thing she's been fighting for? Dr. Morrison, I lost my younger sister to foster care," Rachel said abruptly. 25 years ago, my mother got cancer. Sarah was 10, I was 17. The state split us up because I wasn't old enough to be her guardian. By the time I got custody a year later, Sarah was traumatized, angry, broken. She ran away at 16, died of an overdose at 19. The room went silent. "I became a doctor thinking I could save children," Rachel continued. "But what I learned is that sometimes the best way to save children is to save their families, to support them instead of separating them." She looked directly at Grace. "You have a choice right now. You can follow protocol and remove Emma, traumatizing her and destroying Kate. Or you can help us find a solution that keeps this family together while ensuring Emma's safety. Please, choose compassion over protocol." Grace stood and walked to the window, looking out at the parking lot where families came and went, most of them never knowing how close they were to their own breaking points. Finally, she turned back. "Ms. Sullivan, if I recommend Emma stay with you, and I emphasize if, I need guarantees, stable housing, consistent medical care, a support system in place for when you have flares. Can you provide those things?" "I don't know," Kate said honestly. "I want to say yes, but I don't know how." "I know how." Eleanor's voice came from the doorway. She'd been standing there listening, Emma's hand in hers. Everyone turned. Emma pulled away from Eleanor and ran to her mother's bedside. "Mommy!" Kate reached out with shaking hands, and Emma carefully climbed onto the bed, curling into her mother's side. Kate wrapped her arms around her daughter and broke down, sobbing. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I scared you." "It's okay, Mommy. You're okay now. They're going to help you. We're going to be okay." Kate held Emma tighter, breathing in the scent of her hair, feeling the solid warmth of her. "I love you so much, more than anything in this world." "I know, Mommy. I love you too." After a long moment, Kate looked up at Eleanor. "What did you mean, you know how?" Eleanor stepped into the room. "I mean, I'm offering you my guest cottage, rent-free, for as long as you need it. It has 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen. It's furnished and comfortable. You and Emma will have privacy and independence, but I'll be right there if you need anything. Eleanor, I can't. Yes, you can, and you will. Because this time, Kate, you don't get to say no. This isn't charity. This is family taking care of family. Eleanor's voice was firm. You've been taking care of me for 3 years. You've treated me with more kindness and respect than I probably deserved. You've become like a daughter to me. And Emma, her voice caught, Emma is the granddaughter I always wished lived closer. She looked at Grace. I can provide stable housing, oversight, and backup care when Kate needs it. Kate will continue working for me when she's able. But her primary focus will be her health and Emma's well-being. Rachel added, I know a woman named Margaret Foster. She runs a nonprofit called Haven House that provides support for families dealing with chronic illness. Case management, resource navigation, emergency assistance. I'll personally ensure Kate is connected to every program she qualifies for. And I'll coordinate her medical care. Dr. Friedman spoke up. From a medical standpoint, Kate's MS is absolutely manageable with proper treatment. The pharmaceutical company that makes Ocrevus has a patient assistance program. I can get her enrolled. Her medications will be covered at no cost. With consistent treatment, Kate can lead a relatively normal life. Grace looked at the scene in front of her. Kate holding Emma, both of them crying, surrounded by people who genuinely wanted to help. Then she looked at her notebook full of protocols and procedures. Sometimes the rules and justice weren't the same thing. I'll recommend conditional custody, Grace said finally. Kate retains custody with weekly check-ins from my office, medical monitoring from Dr. Friedman, case management from this Haven House organization, and stable housing from Mrs. Whitmore. Any missed appointments, any signs this isn't working, and we revisit. Understood? Kate nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. But there's one more step, Grace continued. This goes before a judge. A formal custody hearing will be scheduled within 2 weeks. I'll file my recommendation, but ultimately it's the judge's decision. Rachel's stomach dropped. A hearing? Standard procedure for any CPS case, especially one this complex. Grace's expression softened slightly. But I'll be recommending in your favor, Ms. Sullivan. Use these 2 weeks to get stronger, get connected to resources, and prepare to show the judge you can provide adequate care for Emma. After Grace left, Kate held Emma close, overwhelmed with relief and terror. They'd won this round. But the real battle, the courtroom, was still ahead. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks in which Kate's life transformed. She moved into Eleanor's guest cottage, a charming 2-bedroom space with windows overlooking the garden, far more home than the cramped apartment had ever been. She received her first Ocrevus infusion, fully covered by the pharmaceutical assistance program Dr. Friedman had enrolled her in. The medication would take time to work fully, but already Kate could feel a difference. Margaret Foster from Haven House helped her navigate the maze of applications and paperwork. Her Medicaid was finally approved. Someone in the state office admitted there had been errors in processing her previous applications. And through it all, Emma stayed by her side, no longer the sole caregiver, but simply a daughter, learning to be a child again. But as the court date approached, Kate's anxiety grew. What if the judge didn't agree with Grace's recommendation? What if protocol won over compassion? 2 days before the hearing, Rachel visited Kate at the cottage. They sat on the small porch, watching Emma play in Eleanor's garden. "How are you feeling?" Rachel asked. "Terrified," Kate admitted. "What if we lose?" "We won't. You have Eleanor, Margaret, me, even Grace on your side now. And you have the truth, that you're a good mother who was failed by broken systems." Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Why are you doing this? Fighting so hard for us? You don't even know us." Rachel watched Emma chase a butterfly, hopscotch tucked under one arm. "I told you about my sister. What I didn't tell you is that for 25 years, I've been asking myself what would have happened if someone had fought for us. If someone had looked past the protocol and seen two kids who needed help, not separation. She turned to Kate. I can't save Sarah, but maybe I can save you and Emma. Maybe that counts for something. It counts for everything, Kate said, reaching over to squeeze Rachel's hand. Thank you for seeing us, for believing us. The day of the hearing arrived. Kate dressed carefully in clothes Eleanor had helped her choose. Professional, but not pretentious. Emma wore her blue dress, hopscotch clutched in her arms. I'm scared, Mommy, Emma whispered, as they walked up the courthouse steps. Kate knelt down, ignoring the protest from her still healing legs. Me too, baby. But we're going to be brave together, okay? Okay. They walked inside, hand in hand, ready to fight for their family. The courtroom was smaller than the grand halls you see on television, wood-paneled walls, fluorescent lights, plastic chairs in the gallery. But to Kate Sullivan, walking in with Emma's hand gripped tightly in hers, it felt like the entire world. Judge Patricia Hendricks presided. At 62, she'd been on the bench for 25 years. Unlike many judges who'd grown cynical, Patricia had somehow kept her compassion. She was known for asking about people's lives, not just their cases, for crying during testimony, for saying, I'm not here to punish you, I'm here to help you do better. Today she would hear a case that would remind her exactly why she became a judge. All rise for the Honorable Judge Patricia Hendricks, the bailiff called. Everyone stood. The judge entered, a short woman with silver-gray hair in soft waves, glasses on a chain around her neck, warm eyes that immediately scanned the courtroom, landing on Emma. She sat, gestured for everyone else to sit. Then she smiled slightly. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I want to make sure we're all comfortable. Anyone need water? This old courthouse never gets the temperature quite right. People exchanged surprised glances. This wasn't typical courtroom protocol. The judge noticed Emma in the front row between Eleanor and Rachel, clutching her rabbit. And you must be Emma. What a beautiful dress. Emma, startled to be addressed directly, said quietly, Thank you. Miss Eleanor bought it for me. Miss Eleanor has excellent taste. The judge's smile was warm. And who's your friend? Emma held up Hopscotch. This is Hopscotch. He's my rabbit. Hello, Hopscotch. I like his name. Does he hop a lot? Not anymore. He's getting old, and he's missing an ear. You know what? Missing an ear doesn't make him any less special. I bet you love him just the same. Yes, ma'am. That's how it should be. The judge's eyes swept the room, landing on Kate at the defendant's table. Ms. Sullivan, I'm Judge Hendricks. I know you're nervous. I would be too. But I want you to understand something. This courtroom isn't a place of judgment today. It's a place where we figure out what's best for your family, all right? Kate nodded, tears already threatening. Good. Judge Hendricks put on her glasses and opened the file. Now, let me understand this case. Ms. Sullivan, you have multiple sclerosis, correct? Yes, Your Honor. I understand MS can be very challenging. What's it like for you? Kate was surprised by the personal question. It's unpredictable, Your Honor. Some days I'm fine. Some days I can barely walk. My hands shake. My vision blurs. I get overwhelmingly tired. It's like my body is fighting against me. And you're raising Emma by yourself? Yes, ma'am. Her father left when she was 2. The judge's expression darkened. He left when you were diagnosed? Yes, ma'am. What a coward, Judge Hendricks said bluntly. A ripple of surprise went through the courtroom. Judges weren't supposed to editorialize. I'm sorry, the judge continued. That wasn't very judicial of me. But it's true. A real partner doesn't abandon their family when things get hard. She looked at Emma. Your daddy left, huh? Emma nodded. Well, his loss. Because from what I can see, you're pretty special, and so is your mom. Emma's face brightened despite her nerves. Now, Judge Hendricks turned to the Assistant District Attorney Daniel Reed. Mr. Reed, I've read your filing. You're recommending temporary foster placement. Make your case. Reed stood, mid-40s, crisp suit, prepared statement. Your Honor, while we sympathize with Ms. Sullivan's medical condition, the facts are concerning. On October 15th, 6-year-old Emma Sullivan was found alone with her unconscious mother. The child had to call 911 herself. He presented photos, the bathroom, the apartment, the medication bottles. Investigation revealed this wasn't isolated. Emma has been left alone on multiple occasions. She's been managing her mother's medications, a 6-year-old dispensing pills. The family has experienced food insecurity. Housing has been unstable. Ms. Sullivan has a progressive illness that will, by definition, worsen over time. Reed's tone was measured. We're not arguing Ms. Sullivan is malicious. We're arguing she's unable to provide consistent, stable care. The state's position is that temporary foster placement, while Ms. Sullivan focuses on her health, is in Emma's best interest. Judge Hendricks made notes. Ms. Hendricks, from CPS, your recommendation. Grace stood. Your Honor, I initially shared Mr. Reed's concerns, but after thorough investigation, I've changed my assessment. She opened her folder. Catherine Sullivan has multiple sclerosis. Her primary medication, Ocrevus, costs around $70,000 a year. She makes $21,600. She applied for Medicaid 3 times, denied due to administrative errors. Applied for disability, denied because she's not disabled enough, despite having a progressive neurological disease. Grace's voice strengthened. She was trapped between too sick to work full-time and not sick enough for assistance. So she worked anyway. She stretched medications, skipped meals, sacrificed her health to keep Emma housed and fed. That's not neglect, Your Honor. That's desperation. Since this case began, we've connected Ms. Sullivan to resources she should have had all along. Her Medicaid is approved. Her medications are covered. She has stable housing with Mrs. Whitmore. She has case management and medical oversight. Emma is thriving. Her teacher reports she's more engaged, happier. Separating them now would cause the trauma we're trying to prevent. I recommend conditional custody with quarterly check-ins. The judge looked at Reed. Rebuttal? Your Honor, good intentions don't guarantee outcomes. What happens during Ms. Sullivan's next relapse? What if she's hospitalized? This support system is admirable, but potentially unsustainable. Judge Hendricks nodded thoughtfully. I'd like to hear from the medical team. Dr. Friedman? Dr. Karen Friedman stood. Your Honor, I'm a neurologist specializing in MS. With proper treatment, which Kate now has access to, her condition is manageable. She'll have flares, yes, but less frequent and less severe. With the support system in place, Kate can absolutely provide adequate care. Mrs. Whitmore? Eleanor stood, poised and confident. Your Honor, I'm offering my guest cottage to Kate and Emma permanently. Kate has worked for me for 3 years. She's shown more dedication and kindness than I probably deserved. She's become family. I can provide backup care, oversight, and stability. The judge listened carefully, then said something unexpected. I'd like to hear from Emma. The courtroom went still. Kate's head snapped up. Your Honor, she's 6 years old. Old enough to have a voice in her own life, Judge Hendricks said gently. I'm not going to interrogate her, but she deserves to be heard. She looked at the bailiff. Can someone bring Emma forward, and maybe a step stool so she can see properly? Rachel walked Emma to the front. The bailiff placed a small wooden stool near the judge's bench. Emma climbed up, now at eye level with Judge Hendricks. Wow, look how tall you are now, the judge said with a smile. Almost as tall as me? I'm pretty short, you know. Despite her nervousness, Emma giggled. Emma, I want to ask you some questions, but first, how old are you? 6? Well, 6 3/4. 6 3/4, that's very specific. When was your birthday? July 12th. Did you have a party? Emma's face lit up. Yes, Mommy made me a big party in Miss Eleanor's garden. There were balloons and a princess cake, and all my friends from school came. That sounds wonderful. Did your mommy make the cake? She tried, but her hands were shaking that day, so Miss Eleanor helped. But Mommy did all the decorations and the games. She made it special. The judge smiled. I'm glad. Now, Emma, I need to ask about something that might be hard. Is that okay? Emma nodded, gripping hopscotch tighter. Do you remember the day you called 911? Emma's smile faded. Yes, ma'am. That must have been very scary. It was the scariest day of my whole life. Can you tell me what happened? Emma's voice got smaller. I woke up and Mommy wasn't making breakfast like usual. I went to find her and she was on the bathroom floor. She wouldn't wake up. I shook her and called her name, but nothing happened. What did you do? I remembered the emergency card on the fridge, the one Mommy made with me. It said if Mommy won't wake up, call 911 first. So I did. You were very brave. Do you know why your Mommy fell down that day? Because of the MS. It makes her body not work right sometimes. She tries really hard to take her medicine, but sometimes... Emma's voice wavered. Sometimes we don't have enough money for all of it. The courtroom was silent. Judge Hendricks took off her glasses, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't cry during this hearing. Emma, you're breaking my heart here. Emma looked worried. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. Oh, sweetheart, no. The judge smiled through tears. You didn't do anything wrong. These are good tears. Sad tears, but good tears. She leaned forward. Emma, do you love your Mommy? Yes? No hesitation. So much. Even though she gets sick sometimes? Mommy being sick doesn't mean she's a bad Mommy. She can't help having MS, but she can help how hard she tries. And she tries so hard, even when everything hurts. What does your Mommy do that makes her a good Mommy? Emma thought carefully. She reads to me every night with funny voices. She helps me with homework even when her eyes hurt. She makes me breakfast even when her hands shake. She came to my school play even though her legs were bad and she needed a cane. She never misses things that are important to me. Emma's voice grew stronger. And when she has bad days and can't get out of bed, she still talks to me, still listens to me talk about school, still tells me she loves me 1,000,000 times. She never stops being my Mommy, even when her body stops working right. The judge was openly crying now. Several people in the gallery were wiping their eyes. Emma, that was beautiful. One more question. What would you want me to know? Emma looked directly at the judge with those wise 6-year-old eyes. I would want you to know that my Mommy is the bravest person in the whole world. She works even when she can barely walk. She never gives up. She loves me more than anything. Her voice cracked. That man, she pointed at Mr. Reed, said I shouldn't have to live with uncertainty. But I'd rather have uncertainty with my Mommy than anything else without her. We're a team. We take care of each other. And now we have Miss Eleanor and Dr. Rachel and everybody helping us. We're not alone anymore. Tears streamed down Emma's face. Please don't take me away from her. Please. I promise we're going to be okay. We're going to be so okay. Judge Hendricks couldn't speak for a moment. She pulled out a tissue, composed herself. Emma, you can sit down. Thank you for being so brave and honest. Rachel led Emma back to her seat. Eleanor immediately pulled her close. The judge looked at the prosecutor. Mr. Reed, I understand your concerns. Legally, you make valid points. But let me ask you something. Do you have children? Reed stood. Yes, Your Honor, 2 sons. If one of your boys was sick, really sick, and you were struggling, and someone said, we're taking your other son because you're too focused on being sick, how would you feel? Reed paused. I understand the parallel, Your Honor. The law is meant to serve justice, Mr. Reed. Sometimes the most just thing is helping families stay together, not tearing them apart. She turned to Kate. Ms. Sullivan, please stand. Kate stood trembling. I want honesty. Why didn't you ask for help sooner? Kate's tears fell freely. I was terrified, Your Honor. I'd lost jobs because of my MS, been denied assistance over and over. Every time I admitted I was struggling, doors slammed. I thought if I asked for help, they'd say I was unfit and take Emma. She's all I have. I couldn't risk it. So you worked yourself to the point of collapse? Yes, ma'am. You stretched medications you needed to survive? Yes, ma'am. You put your daughter in a position where she had to be more responsible than any 6-year-old should be? Yes, ma'am. Kate's voice broke. I know I did everything wrong, but I didn't know what else to do. I was so scared. I'm so sorry. Judge Hendricks did something extraordinary. She came out from behind her bench and walked directly to Kate. Ms. Sullivan, look at me. Kate looked up, face streaked with tears. You did not do everything wrong. You did everything you possibly could with impossible circumstances. You loved your daughter. You worked when you could barely stand. You prioritized her needs over your health. That's not neglect. That's sacrifice. The judge's voice was firm but kind. But here's what you need to understand. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't take care of Emma if you don't take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself means accepting help. Do you understand? Kate nodded, unable to speak. Mr. Reed wants me to take Emma from you, to put her in foster care while you focus on your health. But you know what I think? I think that would destroy you both, traumatize Emma, make you give up, create the exact harm we're trying to prevent. Judge Hendricks walked back to her bench, sat down. I've heard enough. Here's my decision. The courtroom held its breath. This court finds that Catherine Sullivan is not a neglectful parent. She is a parent who has been systematically failed by inadequate healthcare access, bureaucratic barriers, and an economic system that punishes chronic illness. Kate's knees nearly gave out. Ms. Sullivan now has proper medical treatment, stable housing, and a robust support system. Most importantly, she's demonstrated willingness to accept help. That changes everything. Judge Hendricks's voice strengthened. Custody of Emma Sullivan will remain with Catherine Sullivan, effective immediately. This arrangement is permanent, subject to quarterly check-ins for 6 months, after which this case will be closed. Emma jumped out of her seat and ran to her mother. Kate caught her, both of them sobbing and laughing at once, but the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm ordering the following. First, the state Medicaid office will review why Ms. Sullivan's applications were repeatedly denied and provide a written explanation to this court within 30 days. Someone made errors that almost cost a child her mother. Second, I'm submitting this case to the State Health Committee with a strong recommendation for policy reform. We need better systems to support chronically ill parents before they reach crisis. Third, she looked at Kate and Emma. I want to see you both back here in 6 months, not for a hearing, just so I can see how you're doing. Maybe we can have lunch. Sound good, Emma? Emma, still in Kate's arms, nodded vigorously. Can Hopscotch come? Judge Hendricks laughed. Hopscotch is absolutely invited. She looked around the courtroom. This case reminded me why I became a judge, not to punish, but to help, not to follow rules blindly, but to seek justice with compassion. She banged her gavel gently. This court is adjourned. Ms. Sullivan, Emma, go home, be a family. That's all you ever needed to be. As people filed out, Judge Patricia Hendricks sat at her bench for a moment longer, watching Kate hold Emma while surrounded by Eleanor, Rachel, and Margaret, this chosen family that had fought so hard for this moment. The bailiff approached quietly. Your Honor, that was unconventional. Good, the judge said, gathering her files. Sometimes unconventional is exactly what justice requires. But before leaving, she walked over to where Emma stood, still being hugged by Eleanor. Emma, can I give you a hug too? Emma nodded. The judge knelt down, this dignified woman in her black robes, kneeling on the courthouse floor to embrace a little girl. You're very brave, Judge Hendricks whispered, and your mommy is very lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have her too, Emma whispered back. The judge stood, wiping her eyes once more. She looked at Kate. Ms. Sullivan, I meant what I said. I want to see you in 6 months, not because I don't trust you, because I want to celebrate how far you've come. Thank you, Your Honor, Kate managed through her tears. Thank you for seeing us, really seeing us. That's my job, the judge said simply, to see people, not just cases. She paused at the courtroom door, looking back one last time at the family she'd helped keep together. Sometimes, she thought, justice isn't about the law, it's about love. Outside the courthouse, autumn sunshine broke through the clouds. Kate stood on the steps holding Emma's hand, Eleanor on her other side, Rachel and Margaret nearby. They'd won. Against all odds, they'd actually won. Emma tugged on Kate's hand. "Mommy, can we go home now?" Kate looked down at her daughter, this remarkable child who'd been through so much, who'd saved her life, who deserved every good thing in the world. "Yes, baby, let's go home." As they walked toward the parking lot, Daniel Reed, the prosecutor, approached. Kate tensed, but he raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Ms. Sullivan, I want to apologize. I was doing my job, but your daughter is extraordinary. You're extraordinary. I hope you get everything you need." Kate nodded, too overcome to speak. Eleanor placed her hand on Kate's shoulder. "Come on, dear. Let's go home. I made a pot roast for dinner. We're celebrating." Home. The word felt different now, not the cramped apartment where she'd collapsed, but the cottage with its windows overlooking Eleanor's garden. A real home, with family, with support, with hope. They drove through Cascade Falls in a small convoy, Eleanor's car with Kate and Emma, Rachel following behind. When they pulled into Eleanor's driveway, Kate saw yellow balloons tied to the cottage door. "What's this?" Kate asked. Eleanor smiled. "A few people wanted to welcome you home properly." Inside, Margaret Foster was setting out food. Grace Hendricks was there too, having shed her official role to simply be a person who cared. Even Detective Laura Pierce had stopped by with a card signed by the officers who'd investigated the case. "Wishing you health and happiness." They gathered around Eleanor's dining table, this unlikely family brought together by crisis, but bound now by something deeper. As they ate and talked and laughed, Emma sat between Kate and Eleanor, hopscotch on her lap, her face radiant with happiness. "Mommy," Emma said at one point, "I think this is the best day ever, even better than my birthday." Kate pulled her close. "Me too, baby. Me too." Later that evening, after everyone had left and the cottage was quiet, Kate tucked Emma into bed in her new room, painted a soft lavender, with curtains Eleanor had chosen, with Emma's drawings already taped to the walls. "Mommy," Emma asked as Kate pulled the covers up, "are you still scared?" Kate considered the question honestly. "A little. The MS isn't gone. I'll still have hard days, but I'm not scared the way I used to be." "Why not?" "Because we're not alone anymore. We have Miss Eleanor and Dr. Rachel and Margaret and so many people who care about us. And I learned something important. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's courage." Emma nodded thoughtfully. Like how Hopscotch is still perfect, even with one ear missing. He's still brave and good, just different. Kate smiled. Exactly like that. She leaned down and kissed Emma's forehead. "I love you, sweet girl, more than all the stars in the sky, and all the fish in the sea, and all the fish in the sea, and all the leaves on all the trees. In the whole wide world," Emma giggled. "That's a lot. That's exactly the right amount." Kate stood to leave. "Good night, baby." "Mommy?" Kate turned back. "Will you still be here in the morning?" It was a question Emma still asked sometimes, a shadow of that terrible October morning. Kate crossed back to the bed and sat down. "Yes," she said firmly, "I will be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next. I can't promise I'll never get sick again. The MS doesn't work that way, but I can promise you'll never face it alone again. And neither will I." "Promise?" "Promise." Satisfied, Emma snuggled into her pillow, Hopscotch tucked under her arm. "I love you, Mommy. I love you more." Kate turned off the light, leaving the door cracked open just how Emma liked it. She stood in the doorway for a moment, watching her daughter's peaceful face in the glow of the nightlight. They were going to be okay, not perfect, not without struggles, but together. And together was everything. 1 year later. The transition wasn't magic. There were still hard days. Days when Kate's MS flared and she needed to rest. Days when Emma had nightmares about that October morning. Days when the weight of everything that had almost been lost felt overwhelming. But they faced those days together now, surrounded by love. Kate's quarterly check-ins with CPS went well, so well that after 6 months, as promised, the case was officially closed. Kate's Medicaid remained active. Her Ocrevus infusions continued every 6 months, covered fully by patient assistance. The tremor in her hands lessened. The relapses became rare. Emma flourished. She joined her school's art club, made close friends, brought home report cards full of praise from teachers who marveled at her creativity and kindness. She still helped her mother sometimes, but now as a daughter, not a caregiver. The distinction mattered. And on a spring morning, exactly 1 year after that terrible October day, something remarkable happened. The Oregon State Legislature was about to vote on the Chronic Illness Family Support Act, a bill that would expand Medicaid eligibility for parents with progressive diseases, streamline disability applications, mandate case management for at-risk families, and establish emergency assistance funds. The bill had been inspired by one case, one family, one little girl's 911 call. Kate Sullivan had been invited to testify. The state capitol building in Salem was imposing. Marble floors, vaulted ceilings, the weight of government decisions pressing down from ornate walls. Kate stood in the hallway outside the legislative chamber, hands trembling slightly. "You've got this," Rachel said, standing beside her. "Just tell your story. That's all they need to hear." Eleanor adjusted Kate's jacket. "You look lovely, dear, professional and strong." Emma, dressed in her favorite dress, held hopscotch and looked up at her mother with complete faith. "You're going to be great, Mommy, just like you're great at everything." Kate knelt down, ignoring the protest from her knees. "I'm not great at everything, baby, but I try my best, just like you taught me." "Ms. Sullivan," a legislative aide appeared. "They're ready for you." Kate stood, took a deep breath, and walked into the chamber. The room was full, legislators at their desks, gallery seats packed with advocates, press in the back row. Kate walked to the podium, her prepared notes clutched in shaking hands. She looked out at the sea of faces and nearly panicked. But then she saw Emma in the front row, sitting between Eleanor and Rachel, giving her 2 thumbs up. Kate set down her notes. She didn't need them. She knew this story by heart. "My name is Catherine Sullivan," she began, her voice stronger than she felt. "Exactly 1 year ago today, my 6-year-old daughter found me unconscious on our bathroom floor. She called 911. She saved my life." Kate paused, gathering herself. "I have multiple sclerosis. I was diagnosed 4 years ago, right after Emma was born, right after her father left us. MS is a progressive autoimmune disease. Without treatment, it gets worse. The treatment I needed cost $70,000 a year. I made $21,600. She looked directly at the legislators. "I applied for Medicaid 3 times, denied 3 times for paperwork errors. I applied for disability, denied because I was not disabled enough. I was caught in a gap where I was too sick to work full-time, but not sick enough for help. So I did what any parent would do. I worked anyway. I stretched medications, I skipped doses. I went without so Emma could have food and shelter and school. I worked when I could barely walk. I hid my illness because I was terrified that admitting I needed help would mean losing my daughter." Kate's voice cracked. "And you know what? I almost died anyway. I collapsed. Emma was alone and terrified. Child Protective Services wanted to take her from me, not because I didn't love her, but because I was sick and poor." The chamber was completely silent. "Today, 1 year later, I stand before you healthy, not cured. I'll have MS forever, but managed, stable, able to be the mother Emma deserves. Why? Because Judge Patricia Hendricks chose justice over protocol, because Dr. Rachel Morrison fought for us, because people saw past policy to see human beings." Kate held up a folder. "But I'm not the only one. This is a list of 247 families in Oregon right now facing the same impossible choice I faced. Parents with MS, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, other chronic illnesses. Working parents who make too much for assistance but too little to survive. Parents who are one relapse away from losing everything. Her voice strengthened. The Chronic Illness Family Support Act will help them. It will expand Medicaid so that people like me don't fall through administrative cracks. It will fast-track disability applications for documented progressive diseases. It will provide case management to help families navigate a system that's deliberately confusing. It will create emergency funds so that families don't reach crisis before they get help. Kate looked around the chamber. This bill won't solve everything, but it will solve something, for someone. And sometimes that's how we change the world, one family at a time. My daughter taught me that asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. That love doesn't require perfection, just presence. That we were never meant to carry everything alone. Her voice broke. Please, pass this bill. Help these families. Don't let my story keep happening to others. Please. Kate stepped back from the podium, tears streaming down her face. The chamber erupted in applause. Legislators stood. Gallery attendees stood. Even the press stood. Emma ran to her mother, and Kate caught her, holding her tight while the applause continued. Senator Patricia Williams, chair of the Health Committee, approached the microphone. Thank you, Ms. Sullivan, for your powerful testimony. This committee will vote on the Chronic Illness Family Support Act today, and based on what we've just heard, I'm confident it will pass. It did, unanimously. That evening, Kate and Emma returned to their cottage as the sun set over Cascade Falls. They'd stopped for ice cream to celebrate, Emma's choice, and now sat together on the porch swing, watching the sky turn pink and gold. "Mommy," Emma said, nestled against Kate's side. "Yes, baby?" "I'm proud of you. You helped all those families today?" "We helped them," Kate corrected. "You and me. If you hadn't been so brave that morning, none of this would have happened." Emma thought about this. So something good came from the scary thing? Yes, sometimes that happens. Hard things teach us, change us, lead us to where we're meant to be. They rocked gently, the evening air cool and comfortable. "Mommy, Miss Thompson says every story has a moral. What's the moral of our story?" Kate smiled. "I think the moral is that love isn't always enough by itself. Sometimes you need love and community, and people who refuse to let you fight alone. And that asking for help isn't giving up. It's being brave." "I like that moral," Emma said, yawning. "Me too, sweetheart." They sat in peaceful silence as stars began appearing overhead. After a while, Kate carried a sleepy Emma inside, helped her into pajamas, and tucked her into bed. Emma's bedtime routine was sacred now. A story, a song, and the questions Emma still sometimes needed to ask. "Mommy?" Emma's voice was drowsy. "Yes, baby?" "Will you still be here in the morning?" Kate brushed hair from Emma's forehead, her touch gentle despite the slight tremor that would never quite go away. "I will be here," Kate said firmly. "Tomorrow and the next day, and all the days after that. I can't promise I'll never get sick again. But I can promise you'll never face it alone." "Promise?" "I promise. Now, do you know how much I love you?" Emma smiled, eyes already closing. "More than all the stars in the sky? And all the fish in the sea? And all the leaves on all the trees? In the whole wide world." "That's silly," Emma murmured. "That's too many." "No," Kate whispered, kissing her forehead. "That's exactly right." Emma fell asleep holding hopscotch, safe and loved and home. Kate stood in the doorway, watching her daughter breathe, overwhelmed with gratitude. For second chances, for chosen family, for a judge who chose compassion, for a doctor who fought, for a community that cared, for a daughter who never stopped believing. 1 year ago, she'd been unconscious on a bathroom floor, her daughter terrified and alone. Tonight, they were both exactly where they belonged. together. 1 year after a 6-year-old girl called 911 and said, "Mommy won't wake up," Kate and Emma Sullivan were not just surviving, they were living. The Chronic Illness Family Support Act passed into law that spring. In its first year, it helped over 300 families stay together, families who, under the old system, would have been torn apart. Kate continued working part-time for Eleanor, but her primary role became advocacy. She spoke at community meetings, testified before legislative committees, shared her story so others wouldn't have to face what she'd faced alone. Emma grew. She thrived. She learned to be a child again, playing, laughing, dreaming big dreams about becoming an artist or maybe a doctor who helps people with shaking hands. Dr. Rachel Morrison continued her pediatric practice, but she also became an advocate for systemic reform, channeling her grief over losing Sarah into ensuring other families didn't suffer the same fate. Eleanor Whitmore filled her big house and her life with the family she'd found in Kate and Emma, proof that sometimes the best families are the ones we choose. Judge Patricia Hendricks continued to preside over cases with compassion and wisdom, reminding everyone who entered her courtroom that justice and humanity are not opposing forces. And Margaret Foster's Haven House expanded, now serving families across 5 counties, preventing crises before they required the trauma of separation. Kate still has MS. She still has hard days. Emma still sometimes has nightmares. But they face each day surrounded by love, held up by community, living proof that the bravest thing we can ever do is admit we need help and accept it when it comes. Their story isn't about illness or systems or policy changes. It's about love, the kind that doesn't require perfection, only presence. The kind that asks, "What do you need?" instead of, "What did you do wrong?" The kind that says, "You're not alone," and means it. In the end, the greatest act of love is admitting we need help. And the most powerful act of humanity is offering it, without judgment, without conditions, without hesitation. Because none of us were ever meant to carry it all alone. Thanks for watching. If this story got to you, hit like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss the next soul-stirring stories. See you soon.